First to these breaking developments coming in right at the top of this edition. 23 expelled Russian diplomats and their families have now left London for Moscow. This after the United Kingdom, remember, declared them persona non grata. The diplomats were expelled by UK Prime Minister Theresa May over a nerve agent attack on former double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia. The British Prime Minister had claimed that these officials were in fact spies working under diplomatic cover and granted them a week's time to head home. Let's go straight across now to our correspondent in London, Mandy Clark, who's been tracking the developments very closely. We now have the next step, if you may, in this diplomatic standoff with those diplomats now leaving London, Mandy.
Yeah, there were dramatic pictures of vans and vans of children, adults carrying pet carriers. It's around 80 people in total. There's 23, of course, what Theresa May called undeclared intelligence officers, but they came with their families and their children. So it was around 80 people altogether that boarded these vans and were whisked off to the airport. So there were people gathered outside the embassy, from the embassy staff, waving goodbye. There's a few tears. So it seemed quite a dramatic expulsion of these so-called spies. Of course, Russia has declared the same against London. They said that 23 of the British diplomats in Moscow will have to leave, and they're expected to be pushed out of Russia in the coming days. But this is, of course, the starting of these colder relations between the UK and Russia over the death, or the alleged poisoning of that double agent.
And let's just speak a little bit more about this very case, Mandy, which has resulted in this standoff and the escalation of it over the last few days. The poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia, they of course remain critical. But what also is critical at this point is the deterioration of ties we've seen between UK and Russia. Last we checked, of course, apart from how each of the UK and Russian governments have called for expulsion of diplomats of the other country, we're also looking at the investigation, which is going to be taking a fresh turn over the next few days.
Yeah, well, there has been independent chemical weapons experts who have come to Britain to analyze the nerve agent that was used, and it's being sent to independent laboratories to confirm that it was this Novichok nerve agent, which the UK government says came from Russia. Now, of course, Russia has denied any involvement, and they say to accuse them without any proof is outrageous. But however, the UK has got a lot of support, certainly from their European and the US allies, saying that they do believe that Russia is behind this. There has been a lot of language his counterpart in Russia that has really plunged the relations into deep freeze, and certainly the accusations on both sides are not going to make anything any better. The Russians say that the UK in fact did the poisoning themselves to ruin Russian relations. So there's a lot of accusations that are flying about, but we are expecting results within 2 weeks of these independent chemical experts to give clarity on exactly where the nerve agent came from. And
as those Russian diplomats make their way out of the UK, we also will expect over the next few days those British diplomats to make their way out of Russia. That, of course, was a retaliatory move by Moscow to also expel the British diplomats from Moscow. We're going to leave it there for the moment. Mandy Clark getting us the very latest on what has become an escalation of the diplomatic standoff between UK and Russia. Those diplomats are now leaving from the UK. This after the British Prime Minister had called them persona non grata and undercover spies.